We'll call this meeting to order. My name's Councillor Stu Weigel, and I'll be chairing this afternoon until Mayor Bowman is done navigating the northern roads. And so when he's here, he'll be able to take over. Good evening, everyone. I humbly acknowledge that the land on which we live, learn, work, and play is Treaty 8 territory, the traditional lands of the Cree, Dene, and the unceded territory of the Métis. For the record, we have Councillors Banjoko, Grandison, and Stroud joining us on Teams, as well as I'm under the belief that Councillors McGrath and Walken will be joining us shortly via Teams as well at some point. Councillors, just a reminder, please have your videos turned on so that the voting purposes, we can see your raised hand. Thank you. If anyone in attendance wishes to address the Council on any of the agenda items, please register now with Legislative Services desks located to my right. As well, I will only be calling upon those who have registered to speak. You must register prior to the start of the agenda item to which you are speaking. Registered delegations are permitted up to 5 minutes to speak and must remain on topic. Thank you. Before we adopt the agenda, is there anyone who wishes to serve a notice of motion? Councillor Ball? Oh, not yet. Councillor Ball.
Got me figured out? Perfect. Through the chair, I'd like to serve this notice of motion. I, Councillor Ken Ball, serve notice of my intent to bring forward the following motion for Council's consideration at the November 22nd, 2022 Council meeting. Whereas administration has received previous direction from Council to construct flood mitigation measures in the lower town site to a protection level that would keep our community safe for a 1 in 200 year flood event. This elevation has been established at 250.9 meters above sea level, which includes engineering safety factors. And whereas the province of Alberta has mandated that we protect our residents from flood by constructing mitigation measures that keep our community safe for a 1 in 100 year flood event, this elevation is being determined to be 250.5 above sea level, which includes engineering safety factors. And whereas the Fort McMurray flood of 2020 reached an elevation of 248.9 above sea level and is considered to be a 1 in 40 year flood event. And whereas administration sought input from residents on options to complete flood mitigation measures to a 1 in 200 year flood protection for reaches 6, and work is completely underway to complete reaches 2, 3, 4, 5, and Taganova South to a 1 in 200 year flood event through various projects. Therefore, be it resolved that administration examine the cost differential of constructing to 250.5 versus 250.9 for the aforementioned outstanding reaches and report back to Council with findings as soon as possible.
Thank you, Councillor Ball. Councillor Banjoko.
Thank you. I serve the motion as follows. I, Councillor Funke Banjoko, serve notice of my intent to bring forward the following motion for Council's consideration at the November 22nd, 2022 Council meeting. Whereas the Eid, also known as the Feast of Sacrifice, is one of the largest holidays celebrated in Islam. Whereas Eid is typically marked by charity, communal prayers, large social gatherings with family and friends, slaughtering of livestock and providing meat to the needy and sharing it with family. And whereas the Muslim population in Fort McMurray is 4 times the national average, currently at 12% of the population, with Toronto being 8.9%. With the municipality focusing on continually improving inclusivity for residents, and whereas the 2023 Feast of Sacrifice is on Thursday, June 29th, 2023, therefore be it resolved that administration be directed to investigate and provide a report to Council by April 14, 2023 on the possibility of providing a covered space for 15 days each year to allow the Muslim community the opportunity to participate in the Feast of Sacrifice. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Banjoko. Councillor Dogar? Oh, sorry, I just turned you off. One moment. Can you press your button again? I am learning. Okay. Can I have someone make the motion to adopt the agenda as presented? Councillor Ball? What am I doing? All right.
I move that the agenda be adopted as presented.
Can I have someone second the motion? Councillor Dogar?
I second the motion.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the agenda? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor? Please raise your hand. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, passes unanimously. Awesome. Moving on to the consent agenda. Does anyone wish to remove any items on the consent agenda? Councillor Stroud?
Yeah, mute.
You're on mute, Councillor Stroud.
I just had my hand up to vote, Councillor Weigel.
Okay.
I just put.
Thank you, Councillor Stroud. You did a great job.
Thank you.
Your hand is still up. That's not right.
Thank you, Mr. Weigel.
Okay. Hearing none, can I have someone make a motion? Councillor Ball?
Like anyone else will. I move that the recommendations contained in items 3.1, 3.2, and 3.3 be approved.
Can I have someone second the motion? Councillor Dogar?
I second the motion.
Call for a vote. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Oh, sorry. Councillor Banjoko, we can't see your screen. I apologize. Can you? We'll vote. All in favor?
Yes.
All right. One more time. Councillor Walkwin, all in favor? Carried unanimously, none opposed. Thank you. Moving on to presentations, we now have the annual report from the Advisory Committee on Aging. I'd like to invite Harry Hunter, Chair, and Luana Bussieres, Vice Chair, from the Advisory Committee on Aging to present. Did I not say Henry? My apologies. Mr. Henry Hunter, Chair. My apologies, Henry.
Good afternoon, Acting Mayor and members of Council. I'm technically challenged, so bear with me, I'll probably get this all wrong. Thank you for allowing us the opportunity to provide you with an update on the work being done by the Advisory Committee on Aging. My name is Henry Hunter, Henry, and I am the Chair of the Committee. And with me here today is our Vice Chair, Luana Bussieres. The Advisory Committee on Aging is a council-appointed committee that advocates for seniors in the regional municipality of Wood Buffalo. The ACOA has representation from the Seniors Resource Committee, the Wood Buffalo Health Advisory Council, St Aidan's Society, the Golden Years Society, the RMWB, Rural Seniors, and also Wood Buffalo Housing. We like to think of ourselves as the collective voice of seniors in our region. One of the main priorities for ACOA in 2022 has been the implementation of an age-friendly work plan. The age-friendly work plan was created by ACOA in consultation with the regional municipality of Wood Buffalo and numerous community stakeholders. It should be noted that while the Advisory Committee on Aging is taking a strong lead in shaping Wood Buffalo into an age-friendly region, this is very much a community plan. So ACOA and the RMWB have been engaged with community stakeholders who are on the front lines of serving the seniors in this region to increase their awareness of the plan and to discuss collaboration and implementation. From these engagement sessions, we have gathered a lot of important information on how we can make Wood Buffalo more age-friendly. We explored everything from outdoor spaces and buildings to transportation and housing. We advocated for change to things like the smart bus out working hours and benches, and we worked to ensure that the Kiam Park is accessible to everyone. We also looked at the areas of social participation, respect, social inclusion, civil participation and employment. We spoke with numerous senior serving community organisations and discovered that they are seeing an increased need for social participation. This is increasingly important after the social isolation that was felt throughout the pandemic. The Wood Buffalo for All campaign will have a focus on ageism and help generate awareness for some of the issues our seniors are facing, and there will now be an increased opportunity for senior participation in community events. As mentioned, we held engagement sessions to gather feedback and share information on the age-friendly work plan. We also worked in conjunction with the RMWB on their wayfinding project and to discover if there is any improvements that can be made to ensure that wayfinding and signage are age-friendly. One exciting and hugely successful initiative that we got to be part of bringing to the seniors of Wood Buffalo this year is our Big Blue Bike project. This was a collaboration between Alberta Health Services, Wood Buffalo Housing and a number of other community organisations. It has been so successful that we were informed in October that the community Choose Well picked Big Blue Bike as the winner of the Provincial Most Significant Change Award category for 2022. I've seen how the seniors enjoy going for a ride on the Big Blue Bike. It has brought a whole new sense of freedom for so many who have accessibility issues. And if any of the council would like to go for a ride on the Big Blue Bike, we can make arrangements. We've also improved access for seniors to COVID-19 and influenza clinics throughout the region and volunteer recruitment for Snow Angels. The volunteer recruitment for the Snow Angel programme has increased, which contributes to ageing in place, connects neighbours and building strong communities. This year, during Seniors Week, in collaboration with organisations serving seniors in our community, a proclamation was created to highlight the importance of building a welcoming, age-friendly, inclusive community for all and to recognise and honour the contributions made by seniors. At the recommendation of ACOA, RMW administration also worked with transit services to ensure seniors had barrier-free access to the events. This was inclusive of rural elders and seniors. There were several events held in Fort McMurray, with the council lunch being the most popular, with over 117 attendees. The popularity of this event has outgrown the current venue, and the Golden Years Society and the Seniors Resource Committee is recommending a different location for next year. Seniors Week was also celebrated in Fort Chipewyan for the first time, with 4 events organised in the hamlet. Athabasca Chipewyan First Nations championed this work. I missed that thing, did I? There we go. We've had a very busy year, and I think it has been a successful year, but I feel this group is only getting started in what we can achieve together for our seniors. Thank you, and thank you for your support.
Thank you, Henry.
Did I make it under 5 minutes?
Yeah, you did great. You did great. I'm excited about Big Blue, and congratulations on that, on moving that forward. That's huge. I know when we were down in Calgary, I got the mayor and a couple of councillors to go on the scooters downtown there and having a good time. So I think it won't be tough to get us on Big Blue, riding around town here and giving it a go.
Absolutely.
So thank you for that. And Excited about the Snow Angel program that, Luana, I know that you've kind of mastered up, and was that not part of you? Oh, I apologize. But what a huge program for the city to be able to get people involved, and with Aging in Place, it brings the community together, so thank you so much. Are there any other questions from council to the presenter? Councillor Dogar?
Thank you, sir, for giving me the chance to speak. I have been visiting seniors in Golden Year Society and Rotary House since 2009. It was my passion to see them, meet them, serve them in different intervals during this time. And I am so impressed. It is amazing service provided by, I have seen Lorna Buziers, honorable sister, as we call all ladies who are sisters of the colleagues as our sisters. And amazingly, she had been serving them with her own hand, like her own real relatives, like elder sisters, brothers, or father, or equivalent to that. And that was very impressive for me. They have schedule issued for the entire week, keeping them busy and healthy. Healthy activities are there. It's really amazing to see their schedule or schedule, whatever you pronounce it. I really recommend they should be looked after. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dogar. Councillor Stroud?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Weigel, and to the presenters. I just want to thank Luana and Henry for the update and all the work that's being done for the seniors. It's greatly appreciated. Thank you again.
Thank you, Councillor Stroud. Councillor Banjoko?
Thank you, Acting Mayor. Thanks for the opportunity, and I want to appreciate the Henry and all the presenters and people that work behind the scene for the Aging Committee, the Advisory Committee on Aging. And I also want to say that whatever you do to support our seniors is something that we appreciate. And in order to retain our workforce, we must continue to ensure that we have programs for the aging population. Some of our workers actually move out of the region because of lack of activities or resources to support the aging. So the more you do for them, you're also helping us to retain the people that work in the region. So I do appreciate that very much. That's my comment. Thank you so much.
Amazing. Thank you, Councillor Banjoko. Councillor Ball?
Green for go. Thank you, through the chair. I guess I'm going to echo some of these comments. I've sat on this committee now for just a little more than a year, I guess. And I just want to thank personally Henry and Luana, and I see Ken's in the audience here as well, one of the committee members. I don't think there's anyone that works harder for our seniors in this community than this committee. You guys are so dedicated that you deserve a massive pat on the back. It's amazing the work you do, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you, Councillor Ball. And I just want to echo that you know, this committee looking after that demographic of the population, keeping them here and being able to serve them is massive. So thank you for all the work that you guys do. Thank you for your presentation. Moving on to presentations, we have an update from Fort McMurray Wood Buffalo Economic Development and Tourism. I'd like to invite Kevin Wildlick, President and Chief Executive Officer, and Wes Holodnik, my apologies on these names, Board Director, Fort McMurray Wood Buffalo Economic Development and Tourism to present. Thank you. Just press the button, just kind of right in front of you to start. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members and Deputy Mayor Stu Weil, and all those in attendance this evening and watching online. My name is Wes Holodniak, and I am here today representing the Board of Directors for Economic Development and Tourism. Joining me is Kevin Weidlich, President and CEO. On behalf of the Board of Directors and staff, we are pleased to share this report with you as a follow-up since the last time we met approximately 3 months ago. At our last meeting, Council challenged our organization to provide more information on how we will be measuring our progress. Today, we are here to demonstrate that we have heard you, and we thank you for that opportunity. We've come a long way in the last 90 days to create and approve our key performance indicators, which Kevin will share with you. We'll just wait till we get the technology working. You didn't tap me.
Yeah, that's okay. I figured I could handle it, but I couldn't. It's harder than it looks.
The screen is.
There it is.
This is
Hooray.
Okay, we're back on track again. I'll just go back one step. So we've come a long way in the last 90 days to create and approve our key performance indicators, which Kevin will share with you shortly as we move through the presentation. We will begin with a brief introduction to the report, then move into our key highlights from Q1 and Q4 of this year to date. In this report, you'll see we've identified where our goals support the priorities, milestones, and actions outlined in Council's strategic plan. We will also provide Council with a brief look ahead into our priorities for 2023. And lastly, we will close off by answering any of your questions and provide clarifications when needed. As one of the board members, I feel that we've got a lot of really good stories to say. Like we've done a lot of good things, and we probably don't brag about them enough as we should. So. With that, I'll turn it over to Kevin to take it over.
Thanks, Wes. So we're executing on our 5-year strategy using 15 major programs and 3 supporting programs to deliver economic development and tourism services to the region. There are 4 business units delivering on these major programs, with the addition of smaller initiatives and projects that we undertake from time to time. Our business units delivering these major programs with the addition of our business units are Entrepreneurship and Innovation, Business Investment and Attraction, Tourism and the Visitor Economy, Brand and Strategy, which includes talent attraction, the attraction of people to the region. We've taken a program management approach as a way of creating efficiency and adding structure to how we do our work and measure our progress. In addition to their 15 major programs, we have smaller programs that we work on independently, in some cases jointly with stakeholders and rights holders in the region. We'll be using these quarterly reporting presentations with Council to highlight notable milestones, and there will be some times we don't touch on all 15 of the programs during our quarterly presentation. All that simply means is there hasn't been notable changes from last time that we reported. It's also important to mention that programs that we undertake each year are identified through our annual business planning cycle. That means we tailor our suite of programs as we assessed our priorities for the year ahead. We have goals and KPIs that remain the same throughout the long run. This is year over year over year. But the programs to achieve those goals will evolve and they'll change. Some programs will introduce, others will stop. And it's all based on how they move the yardstick on our key performance indicators. So I'll dive right in. As part of our first year of implementing our 5-year strategy, we started to track a basket of different KPIs to assess progress against our goals. 2022 is very much a baseline setting year, where we track key performance indicators associated with the 15 programs. And KPIs are the most informative when they're used to measure effectiveness of programs over the long run. So I'm going to talk about what we're undertaking in terms of how our strategic plan is structured, and it's structured by our goals. So our first goal is to grow local business and entrepreneurship. And so I'll share a few updates on how we've been actioning our goal to grow local business and entrepreneurship. So our organization coaches, mentors, and provides education and grant writing support for entrepreneurs at various stages of development, from startup, scale-up, growth, and expansion. And you'll recognize that work through Startup YMM, which is the main mechanism that we use to deliver programs to the region. We're working closely with other local business support organizations, such as the Fort McMurray Chamber of Commerce, the Community Futures Wood Buffalo, the Construction Association, and the Northeastern Aboriginal Business Association, as we each play a different role in rallying around the local entrepreneurs and delivering services. And we take them under our wing to help them to expand their industry connections and promote their businesses at conferences and meet other entrepreneurs. So a few highlights to share. We worked with over 257 startup member businesses in the past year, and managed since January, and managed member access for the startup building, which members have 24/7 access to. We hosted 1,367 total participants in business education programs, and we've designed and hosted 78 business and educational programs. And we secured $350,000 in funding to support local startup businesses. And we have 2 team members meeting with about 40 businesses on average during a typical month. We'll have more information updated for you in 2023. However, we wanted to share our insights into how our work impacts local entrepreneurs and the local business community. These coaching and mentoring sessions can take place during regular business hours, but many happen after hours and on the weekends to accommodate the entrepreneur who's often working a full-time job while they build their businesses. Some of the work Startup YMM businesses are doing is quiet because they're getting their businesses going, while others are in a different stage and really getting their names out there. Here's some of the quiet work that we're doing. For example, we're working with an entrepreneur in the region to help them start up a business in the clothing sector. Additionally, we're also helping several home-based business entrepreneurs to make the transition from home-based business into commercial space. And the further along in their journey, we'll be sure to highlight them in their business. A great example of a Startup YMM business that's further along in their journey is Kid Drop Inc., who recently won the Fort McMurray Chamber of Commerce's Emerging Entrepreneur Award. Next, I'll talk about the Workforce Immigration Support Program. Some of the very first questions we were asked by potential investors is, what does your labor market look like? And how and can it support new development and new businesses in the region? We successfully designed, the labor shortage struggle in our region and across Canada is very real. According to the government of Alberta, there are over 1 million job vacancies in Canada and over 100,000 vacancies in Alberta. That's double the pre-COVID norm. And additionally, the Business Council of Canada noted that 80% of employers are dealing with labor shortages. And the government of Alberta states that 56% has been seriously impacted in their ability to run their business because of a lack of labor. In Q3 this past summer, our organization, in partnership with several community organizations, including the municipality, came together to achieve designation for the Government of Alberta's Alberta Advantage Immigration Program, the Rural Renewal Stream. The Workforce Immigration Support Program is our region's local approach to this rural renewal stream. And the program is led by our organization in collaboration with the Regional Labour Market Committee, chaired by the Fort McMurray Chamber of Commerce and the YMCA and Keano College. It's geared towards temporary foreign workers already in the region, graduate international students for Keano College, and newcomers working in other parts of Canada and applying to come to Canada. The WISP is centered around the employer, who's required to demonstrate practices for hiring local first before expanding their recruitment efforts for roles that are difficult to fill. We designed the program and tested the intake process in the span of 4 weeks. And we recently launched the program with a media event last week and partner panel discussion in this 4th quarter. Our work impacts local business directly. We just started employer sessions, and this accelerates immigrants on the path to permanent residency. It allows employers to give permanent job offers to temporary foreign workers and immigrant applicants, which allows them to become permanent residents faster than they otherwise would. So here's how we measure success. So these 2 programs I just spoke to, they support the RMWB goals in building relationships, rural and Indigenous community development, the local economy, and downtown visualization. And then we measure it by using these KPIs. We count the number of members that are active with Startup YMM. We count the number of members that are a part of Startup YMM that self-identify as Indigenous to ensure that we're providing services to Indigenous entrepreneurs. And we, of course, count the number of jobs the Startup YMM members create. We measure the amount of commercial space that is undertaken by Startup YMM members. We count the number of applicants for the Workforce Immigration Support Program, and we use dollars, we use a figure of $50,000 per applicant to measure success. In the past week and a half, since we launched the program, I've signed 5 endorsement letters, which basically means 5 new immigrants are becoming permanent residents in due course, relatively quickly. At $50,000 per immigrant, that's $250,000 of value of additional economic impact in the region in the last week alone. That number will grow. The next is supporting immigration. Or innovation. I said immigration. My head's on immigration. Thanks. Yeah. So a few key updates on what we've been doing to achieve this goal. This year, we started to develop and action the first regional innovation strategy through our work with the Wood Buffalo Regional Innovation Network, which we co-chair with Keano College, industry, and various business support organizations. As part of this work, we've already taken early steps to connect Fort McMurray Wood Buffalo's innovators with resources to develop new technology. The work connects to the Startup YMM Makerspace, which provides technology and equipment to innovators to work with. They have a place to learn, create, tinker with their ideas with the hopes of one day reaching commercialization for their business. We currently have 8 innovators that are using that space at various stages on their technology commercialization. The Rural Innovation Technology Programming is very exciting. This program is working with Community Futures Wood Buffalo, who are doing a fantastic job, to create rural innovation and technology programming. Following discussions with leaders in Fort Chipewyan, we identified that there is a need for 3D printing equipment, training in coding, and artificial intelligence in Fort Chip. Subsequently, we purchased equipment for the community and will be bringing in facilitators to help members of the community get trained in these areas. We'll be looking to further support Community Futures as they look to pilot this program in other rural communities, and we're exploring the idea of creating another makerspace in Fort Chip. This space would be very similar to what's currently at Startup YMM and supported by our team. We're continuing to explore the idea by talking with potential partners about timelines and feasibilities, and it's our goal to get this underway within the next year. This work benefits aspiring rural entrepreneurs and innovators living in Fort Chip, giving them a place in their own community to test their ideas and to have the opportunity to create a sound business in innovation out of their ideas. So here is another example of how we measure success of these 2 programs. These 2 programs support the municipality's strategic plan's goals, building relationships, rural and Indigenous communities, and local economy. and how we measure success. So the number of Alberta Innovation System partners, basically who has engaged with us that we have connected to the Alberta Innovation System. That's the entire post-secondary innovation system in the province, of which we're a node that connects into that. And of course, the number of Makerspace users, and that includes the users in Fort Chip Makerspace once that is established. So now I'll share a few key updates on what we've been doing to action our goal to attract new business and private investment into the region. Our organization collaborates extensively with the RMWB Planning and Development Department to advance commercial, retail, and industrial development in the region. When it comes to development, our roles are highly interdependent. While the municipality is responsible for creating a pro-business environment through policy and infrastructure, economic development and tourism is responsible for investment attraction in commercial and industrial development, marketing and communication of the available land, and business retention and expansion. Our two organizations came together to get Parsons Creek onto the market, and we're actively working with planning and development to advance the project to the place where we can secure a potential developer. This work benefits the local business community and residents because we're making progress on land development, which will then help us become more attractive to retailers and provide more commercial retail services to residents. New retailers need somewhere to go, and existing retailers need local options where they can expand. Recently, we took part in the Innovating Commerce Serving Communities Convention, that's ICSC, and it's one of the most important retail development conferences in North America, attracting high-level delegates and decision makers from across Canada and the United States. And this is a critical convention that stirs interest in our community. Our efforts generated a strong response from key national developers and retailers, generating some 30 qualified leads with senior executives from targeted developers, investors, and retailers. FMWB EDT's work now entails continuing the flow of information and market data requests and advancing prospective business development conversations. Because of the heavy lifting we did last year to gather current market intelligence about our region, we are ready to use that data to capture the attention of decision makers and influential connectors. And this work benefits local business community because we are seeing positive responses from the market and generate a lot of interest from land developers and retailers coming into our market. This year, we've also undertaken a plan and taking action on how we'll approach engagement for tourism development with rural and Indigenous communities. We came together with rural Indigenous businesses to identify how the region wants to develop tourism here. For example, we've identified Indigenous tourism and adventure tourism as potential areas of focus. This important work aligns with what the entire leisure travel industry is saying, namely, authentic Indigenous tourism experiences have the most growth potential of anything in the travel industry in Alberta. And Alberta is doing incredibly well at it. Travel Alberta has identified Fort McMurray with Buffalo as a high priority tourism development zone because of our great potential and yet to be developed visitor experience opportunities. Our role is the bridge between investors within the travel and tourism sector and potential and current local operators and businesses. For example, we're coaching and helping entrepreneurs build relationships within the Indigenous tourism industry in Alberta and supporting them with other resources through Startup YMM. We've also helped many build websites, apply for grants, and build their marketing materials. And additionally, we've sponsored their attendance at the Travel Alberta Conference this year and the Fort McMurray Tourism Development Town Hall. As well, we take delegations to the Indigenous Tourism Alberta Conference, and one is planned for later this year. Once these businesses are ready to launch, our organization it can amplify their products and services through marketing and promotions within and outside the region, and connecting them to other destination marketers such as Travel Alberta and Destination Canada for international marketing. And this, of course, benefits the local business community because it fosters new local businesses that are offering products and services in an entirely new sector outside of oil and gas. It doesn't just benefit visitors to the region, but also existing residents and existing businesses who get a richer experience in our local economy and access to visitors' spending. We measure it like this. So the 3 programs I just identified, they support the municipality's goals, building relationships, rural and Indigenous communities, the local economy, and downtown visualization. And on the screen are how we measure it. I won't list that list of 6 items. So next. Okay, bear with me. So now I'll share a few updates on how we've been actioning our goal to brand and market our region. So our website, we've optimized our website earlier this year. Completing this project was critical, so we can now offer a global window into our region, all things economic development and tourism. rmwb.ca about what life is really like in the region for anyone looking to visit and explore, to live and work, to do business and invest, and to innovate. And you'll have seen our billboards along Highway 63 coming at the southern entrance of Fort McMurray. Visitors to that site will learn about the strong collaborative spirit and historical, cultural, and economic importance of Indigenous communities in our region. And the project also allowed us to integrate economic development and tourism into one website platform. It's an important piece of integration because we can now offer a much more complete view of economic development and tourism in Fort McMurray Wood Buffalo. And the work benefits local business community because having the best-in-class website allows us to make a good first, second, and third impression with all prospects, including investors, visitors, and potential residents. We've also undertaken active traditional marketing by accelerating our provincial campaign, which is on its 2nd year of being in market. We have it in place, it is thriving, it allows us to market our region clearly to our targeted audience of investors, new businesses, visitors, and new talent. The work benefits the region because it arms the many residents and businesses and organizations with the tools that they need to market the region in a similar way to achieve their own goals. No one organization can market the entire region on its own, but if we all do it together in a harmonious way, we'll be more successful. And this campaign provides those tools to do that. Syncrude, Suncor, Keano College, the YMCA, the Fort McMurray International Airport, Fuse Social, and dozens of entrepreneurs, Indigenous and non-Indigenous, are using the community toolkit on our rmwb.ca website to market the region. And we're especially proud of our close working relationship with the municipality and the many projects that are drawing inspiration from the brand. Kiam Community Park is just one example. The intent of our marketing campaigns is to begin to reshape the narrative about Fort McMurray Wood Buffalo. The campaign targets provincial audiences, and we collaborate with NABA, the Athabasca Tribal Council, this year to help amplify their initiatives, while at the same time sharing a glimpse of why people should visit or to do business here. For NABA's Faces of Entrepreneur video series, we levered the Place Brand platform to bring awareness of the region's Indigenous businesses and Indigenous strength. Our organization identified this as a strategic provincial sponsorship opportunity to share Indigenous people's stories using their own words, their own stories, in their own way. For the Athabasca Tribal Council Festival, we secured media space as part of the provincial campaign to promote the event and boost visitation to our region. And additionally, we captured video assets of the event for promotional purposes, and will be providing these to ATC as in-kind support to show our appreciation. And again, we measure our success of these 2 programs that are aligned with the RMWB goals as shown on your screen. The goals are building relationships, rural and Indigenous communities, the local economy, and of course, downtown visualizations. We measure it by counting website visits and our community perception scores, along with very specific measures for various specific programs as they come. Our next goal is to pursue organizational excellence. To achieve transformative outcomes in economic development and tourism, we need to invest in building an excellent organization. Another way of looking at this goal is making sure that we have the internal programs in place that help us work on the business, as we work in the business to deliver services to the region with the greatest of intention. As I mentioned in the opening, we have 3 organizational support programs, and this is where those 3 programs fall. I'll share a few updates on them. We're in the process of undertaking an organizational review with the support of the municipality's HR department through our shared services agreement. With our 5-year strategy in place and KPIs established, we then moved forward with an organizational review. And although the review is underway, we're actively hiring to fill critical roles, including rural and Indigenous relations, along with other key capacity gaps. And this is a natural step for our organization. Every position, we're ensuring we do our due diligence by assessing that we have the right people in the right roles and to identify talent gaps. And we anticipate the review to be complete imminently. And we'll be looking for talent that has experience working with Indigenous businesses and communities in the region, and people that have deep knowledge about Fort McMurray Wood Buffalo. One of the outcomes of our Indigenous Inclusion Committee was changing our hiring practices to ensure that all job postings are included on the Indigenous Hiring Hub's job board, and that we remove barriers to any sort of application for all positions. This work benefits the local business community and residents at large because we need to make sure that we can implement everything that we need to in the most efficient and effective way possible. It also ensures we're doing our due diligence to ensure that we have the right people in the right roles and address any gaps that we may have. Next, I'll talk about relationships and communication. Due to the access restrictions during the pandemic and activities that required face-to-face interaction, it limited our ability to interact. And in some cases, we were able to work virtually to establish new relationships. But the pandemic does get in the way. Our organizations made it a priority for more regulatory exploratory visits and meetings to rural and Indigenous communities and take part in provincial and national economic development and tourism discussions and exploratory meetings. In Q3 and into Q4, we've started to map out our course of action to increase our local communications and strengthen our relationships through engagement. And you'll have been seeing a lot of activity on social media to that effect. We've heard Mayor and Council very loud and clear on this item, that local communication is an area of improvement for our organization, and we look forward to sharing more stories with the community in the new year about what we do and how our work creates local economic impact. Wes said it up front, we don't toot our horn enough. We will start to. Our organization manages relationships with local, provincial, and national organizations. And when we say economic development is a team sport, and our organization works with more than 80 organizations to ensure that we can play well and to compete. These relations must be managed in an effective way, which is why a sound roadmap for effective engagement is important. This work benefits the local business community because only through our strategic relationships will we be able to make the connections that we need, gather the intelligence that we need, and find the synergies we need to bring our strategy and actions to life. Next, I'll talk about economic reconciliation. Our mandate, strategy, and vision and goals for economic development and tourism cover the entire region and are inclusive of all rural and Indigenous communities. Many of these programs and projects towards Indigenous businesses, entrepreneurs, and community groups, for example, the Athabasca Tribal Council and NABA, and the various business arms of Indigenous-owned corporations. We take the act of reconciliation very seriously, and we are invested in taking the necessary time to engage in this process in the right way. Our role is to amplify and rally around the independent strategies, visions, and activities of Indigenous communities and their economic development and business arms, as well as independent or aspiring Indigenous entrepreneurs. We do that by finding commonalities and joint initiatives where our organization can boost their impact and accelerate their growth. As part of implementing our strategy, our organization has invested the time and resources to create an internal Indigenous Inclusion Committee. Our team meets to discuss opportunities and address obstacles that may be hindering our path to success and commitment to reconciliation. Additionally, we've held Aboriginal awareness training as a requirement for our board and staff. A big part of this important work is to understand that we would never prescribe what development should look like in any specific Indigenous community. Our approach benefits local Indigenous businesses and entrepreneurs because we support them as they continue to strive for full economic participation. We're honored to play a role in helping Indigenous entrepreneurs carve their own path to achieving economic independence and prosperity. And a few of these goals include, a few of our KPIs include the percentage of annual stakeholder survey scores, the number of joint initiatives, and the joint initiatives and programs for rural and Indigenous communities. And all of these programs support the RMWB Council's strategic goals of financial management, building relationships, rural and Indigenous communities, the local economy, and downtown visualization. The more our organization strives for excellence, the more we can effectively and efficiently deliver our mandate and achieve our goals. Thanks. I'll now turn things back to Mayor and Council for any questions that you might have.
Awesome. Thank you for the presentation, Kevin and Wes, and thank you for the rest of the team for being here. It's awesome to have you guys all here. Again, I want to apologize to Wes for the pronunciation of your last name. It happens to me all the time. Yeah, well, thank you. But I do have a couple questions, but I'll pass it over to my colleagues for now, and I'll jump in at the end. So, Councillor Cardinal.
Thanks. Thanks, Kevin. I mean, sorry, thanks, Stu. I mean, Mayor. Through the chair to Kevin, I must say I'm pretty impressed by your presentation. I really enjoyed that. A lot of stuff that you've been doing is, coincides with our strategic plan, and I thank also Wes for Huludniak. There we go, and the staff that's there as well. I really appreciate the acknowledgement for Indigenous relations and our rural communities as well, and the effort that you're putting into it. I really see a change in the involvement with the rural communities, Indigenous people as well, and I want to say thank you for that. I see the difference in how you're feeling. I don't know how you're feeling, but how I'm feeling about this and how you've presented yourself, whether it may be prayer, whether it may be involvement more in the community, whatever it is that's bringing that into your light and your staff's light. I really appreciate that, because it makes a lot of difference, and it's all a learning experience when it comes to each and every one of us that are in here together. We don't know everything, and that's the thing about learning and sharing and giving direction. We all give direction to each other, no matter what it is. So, I really appreciate that involvement and your presentation. And I do have some questions, but let it go around the table, and maybe I can ask them later and just get a little sense of what's going on. So, thank you very much.
Thanks, Councillor Cardinal. Councillor Dogar.
Thank you, sir, for giving me the chance. It is a really very good, amazing presentation, excellent ideas. I wish you best of luck, and I wish and pray that these are implemented on ground. I'm a keen observer and keen visitor of where the money of taxpayers is spent. I visited you last time, and you were very kind to give me a brief but a good presentation. I was impressed from the layout and the personalities I met around. And I voted for you in the first instance, but I came under a lot of criticism. Slowly, things would improve. You had a general reason of COVID, and also your job is slow moving upwards. But now certainly it's quite a time to show better results. I have been encouraged to go and visit you, and it would be my pleasure to go and meet you and learn from you, and also if you have a copy of the today's presentation, you can give me that. It's a few questions I have, but that is one-to-one. In the council, probably I do not want to waste time of so many people. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Councillor Dogar. And just a reminder that there is a copy of your that presentation in your agenda, so you should have a copy.
Okay.
Awesome. Councillor Stroud.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Weigel, and to the presenters. Thank you, Kevin, for the presentation. I attended the launch of the Workforce Immigration and Support Program, WISP. It was very informative and great to see this collaboration between Fort McMurray Wood Buffalo Economic Development and Tourism, the Chamber of Commerce, Piano, and the YMCA of Northern Alberta. With this community force, I believe we will see an increase in economic opportunities as the news gets out, and as you mentioned in your presentation. I also want to thank you for seeing these new programs going on in the rural communities. Thank you again.
Thank you, Councillor Stroud. Councillor Walkwin.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and through the chair. Awesome presentation. The question, I just got a question. You said the rural communities you had presentations to. What types of presentations have you done in the rural communities?
Yeah, thank you. So it's mostly around tourism development is the one that immediately springs to mind. There are others, but I'm quite certain that that I won't be able to pull them out of my brain right on the spot. But largely tourism development, and especially rural and Indigenous tourism development. So, the engagement's mostly been in Anzac and Fort Chip. The intent is to pursue that. We have a over the course a project this winter around, done jointly with Travel Alberta, which there will be further town halls and further engagements in the rural communities, primarily around tourism development.
Okay, yeah, I'd like to, what Councillor Cardinal had said, that is awesome of what you're presenting and what you're bringing to the communities. I strongly encourage that, that it goes to all rural. Fort Fitzgerald and Fort McKay, Conklin, Janvier, and Anzac, that's the biggest part of the municipality that I'm sure would bring a lot of support to what you're presenting if there's more engagements in those parts. Thank you.
Yeah, if I could also respond, one thing that immediately springs to, and you're dead right on that point, so it's important that we have engagement with all of the communities in the municipality, and it's a really important point. We are the regional economic development organization, and that's from Fort Fitzgerald, frankly, all the way down to Conklin. I am happy to say we are actually actively engaged with an entrepreneur out of Fort Fitzgerald, the dog sleder company, and we're helping to promote their product. And they are actually they're really doing well. So that's good. I wouldn't dare take credit for that. They're the ones that get all the credit. We just get to help.
Thank you.
Amazing. Thanks, Councillor Walkman. Councillor Grandison.
Thank you kindly, sir. Through the chair, I wanted to say, Wes, please thank your entire board, and Kevin, please thank your entire staff. I think what a difference a year makes, and I'm certainly much more excited about the day and the future with economic development than I was a year ago. I appreciate all of the efforts, and I hope both of you will congratulate all your respective supporters that made this all happen. So more of just that comment and no questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Grandison. Councillor Banjoko.
Thank you, Acting Mayor. Thank you again for the presentation, Kevin and the entire team. And we all be echoing the applause for your team. This is the amazing move in the right direction. I want to commend the new branding, or maybe it's the first time I'm noticing the change to opportunity lives here, rather than saying it's the best place to live, work, and all that. I attended one of the workshops where we were advised to have a key point and zero in on that. So I think that's a very excellent way to brand where we live. Thank you. I wanted to ask a question around any targeted approach towards First Nations and other minorities who have not been well positioned economically in the region. Maybe you can give me, I know we've talked a little bit about connecting with entrepreneurs in the rural area, but do you have specific approach or strategies to include them? And I like the word economic inclusion. So I wanted to know if you have that for First Nations, other minority groups like the Blacks in the region. Is that something that could happen? And then I wanted to comment the workshop, the immigration program, workforce immigration program. And I really commend that. I tried to make the workshop, couldn't be there that day. But my main question for you is the strategy of matching the jobs with people, because it looks like we still have a lot of people without jobs, whereas there are jobs, there are jobs to be filled. So 2 key questions there. And of course, my usual question, when can we start seeing retail stores? I know you've mentioned a little bit about it, even for public education, if you can just give us an idea where we are and when we can expect to see some stores spring up. That's what I have here, other than commending you again that you are so visible now. Apart from your presentation, we see what you do and we hear what you do. So thank you again.
Thank you, Councillor Weigel. I'll try and tackle it by memory. 3 questions. First one regarding strategy towards Indigenous inclusion. So we struck an Indigenous inclusion committee earlier this year and have come up with certain strategies. In terms of Indigenous entrepreneurial support and Indigenous business support, the strategy really consists of ensuring that all entrepreneurial development services are targeted and marketed and accessible to Indigenous entrepreneurs. And we lever our relationships as a strategy. So that includes all of the business arms of the Indigenous nations. That also includes NABA and, of course, the Athabasca Tribal Council. So by levering those relationships, we make sure that we have our programs are accessible to Indigenous entrepreneurs. I'm very pleased to share that it's actually we've had a very positive uptake. The couple out of Fort Fitzgerald. The newly launched Aurora Borealis Indigenous Village. These are immediate results and outcomes of the programming that we've put into place. Likewise, NABA Faces of Entrepreneurship and Faces of Business. So these are all examples of that relationship-driven approach. And and you can't really get any success in anything unless you establish relationships first. That leads into the second question, which is, of course, ensuring that minority communities and we are engaged and involved. I assure you that they are. We lever relationships as well with the YMCA, the Newcomers Network, Immigration Network, and of course we look at it from a very intentional lens to ensure that we have, and we do have, diversity, equity, and inclusion policies in place, and we look at it through our board and governance team to ensure that we have that diversity both within the staff and, of course, on the board of directors. And the last question on commercial and retail development, when are we going to get more stores? And I bet you I can guess what the names are. In fact, I don't even need to guess because we actually did the research and asked. And so the short answer is as soon as there is space for them to move into. So retailers are tenants, and that's the trick. So we need space for tenants to go. That's why Parsons Creek is such an important milestone to get it onto the market so we can get developers to build that space so those tenants can rent that space. That's what it all boils down to. When? These are 1 or 2 year business cycles. Knowing that Parsons Creek is on the market today, we would encourage and really push for a positive outcome to get a developer to purchase and start developing the land, perhaps as early as in 2023. That's very aspirational, and that's really pushing it, but it's worth pushing for. As far as other smaller scale retailers, the opportunity exists now, and we're already seeing some examples of that, particularly in the downtown core, but in other parts of Fort McMurray. Even during the pandemic, Dollarama opened 2 stores. Why? Because the value proposition of our region is so good. Dollar Tree came to town. Why? We are promoting it, and they saw the results, and they're considering even further. So there's lots of examples like that sprout up. It is the free market. We're not going to know or necessarily be involved in all of them, but by marketing and promoting our region and sharing the data and the proof points that our region is a great place to invest in, then we'll start to see more action. Long convoluted story to say, not right away.
Thank you.
Maybe I'd like to add to that. Oops, sorry. I'd like to just add to that, Mr. Bajanko. Kevin indicated 257 startup businesses that have been talking to the economic development right now. Let's just imagine 100 of those open up retail stores. There's good stories. It takes a little bit of time to happen. And I personally believe they will happen, just having that number of 257 out there. So.
Thank you. Thank you for the answer. Through the chair, I think you missed one. I know I threw out quite a number of questions there. The job mix match, workers versus what kind of work is available. So is it that we look for a way to prepare the newcomers to be suitable for the position, or I don't know the answer. I'm just saying that there's a little bit of gap there. Thank you again.
Thank you, Councillor, and through the chair. I think the Yeah, it's a good question. There's a number of ways to make those connections, and really the exercise is finding the worker and connecting them to the job. Now, as it happens, we have more jobs than workers, so that's the issue at play. We have already started a number of employer sessions for the Workforce Immigration Program. There are more sessions to be taking place later this week or next week. And dozens of employers have been joining. I don't have the numbers handy. But also, just today, I did a presentation with my colleague Andrea with Suncor's contractors community. That's some 70 contractors on a call to discuss this program, and well received. They're all leaning in, realize that they can become part of this as well. I do want to mention in particular, this program also supports Ukrainian nationals coming into our region. And so the Alberta government has a job board which employers can post their jobs that reside in the region. So if you're an employer and you're listening in, it's just a matter of going to our website. It'll take you, you'll eventually navigate to that job board, post those jobs, and both Ukrainian nationals actually get prioritized in this program, and of course everybody else who would be applying for that program as well. And it just ensures that those workers have those job offers so they can get accelerated to become a permanent resident. So those targeted employer engagements are currently taking place, and we'll continue to chip away at that.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Councillor Banjoko. Councillor Cardinal.
Through the chair to Kevin, I believe that we've discussed prior meetings. Where are we at with, the Indigenous Relations coordinator for rural communities? Maybe some sort of an update on that, if that's possible.
Yeah, thanks for that question. So that position, we've identified it as a priority. The full job description is currently in development. I expect that will be complete in the coming days and weeks, and it will be posting for that position before the end of the calendar year. So our target is before the Christmas holidays to start promoting it. So with a view to having the person start in early 2023. The intent and the goal is to make sure that the person in that role has a very strong understanding of rural communities, and all options are on the table, including those that reside in remote communities, to be part of that job.
Cool, that's it. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Councillor Cardinal. And I just wanted to add, thank you for the presentation. Again, I've now seen bits and pieces of this on a couple different committees and all the way through, and I just want to commend you guys on the tenacity to be able to work through this and to bring it forward. You guys' seen and how you're being seen in the community is vastly different, and you guys have really put yourselves out there and shown what you guys are doing, and a lot of work that's being put in. The presentation just shows a small sample size of everything that's going on, and obviously there's a lot. In the conversations I've had, just to bring a couple things, the 24/7 business help with entrepreneurs is massive. As an entrepreneur, you never have problems at 5 o'clock in the evening. It's 1 o'clock in the morning while you're pulling out your hair, crying, trying to figure out what to do for the next day. So I know that's been a massive one and a huge piece. And the 30 leads for investors, I know that's been a hard fought. I've been to many investors meetings that I've held where nobody showed up, and it takes a lot of time and a lot of success, and we all watch the videos where how many times people failed before they showed up and made it happen. And so I know your team has showed up and gone to many events with 0 leads and gone back and figured out different ways to do it and different ways to sum up those 30. And I know that you guys ended up with more than 30 leads, but these are 30 actual hard leads that are bringing something to the table. So just appreciate the tenacity behind that and what you guys are doing. So thank you. I think that's it for this presentation. Thank you guys again so much for it. I think before we move on anything further in the agenda, we'll just take a 5-minute recess before we move forward. Thank you.
the impact of wildfire on our communities. Beyond our request for your support, I want to take this opportunity to share in the evolution of the Fire Smart program in our region, for what it was and to what it is today. It's been a journey, and we've certainly learned from our past, and we can look today and be really proud of the work that we've done to this point. But what does the future of Fire Smart look like in our region? So looking back since the early 2000s through to 2016, there were aspects of the Fire Smart in Wood Buffalo region. Annual grant funding from the FRIA grants as well as Fire Smart Community Grant were limited to a combined $125,000 annually. The Horse River wildfire of 2016 was proof that the Fire Smart work that had been implemented was simply not enough for our region, and a different approach was required. In 2017, Mayor and Council supported a wildfire mitigation strategy to provide practical and operational wildland-urban interface risk management strategies to reduce the threat of wildfire in our region. And if you recall, our commitment to building back better and having a safe place to call home, the vision was to embed the Fire Smart principles into the fabric of our communities as an essential and necessary endeavor. Established under the Canadian Fire Smart program, we began the journey with a clear objective of reducing the impact of wildfire on our communities. With today's support of Mayor and Council in adopting the updated 2022 wildfire mitigation strategy, we would be able to continue that vision in protecting our communities from wildfire from the forever regenerating boreal forest. Currently, our Fire Smart team is embedded within the Regional Emergency Services and is led by a team of 2 that works to analyze, prepare, plan, and execute the 7 principles of Fire Smart within our region. We are extremely grateful of the support of grant funding from the Government of Alberta, Canadian Red Cross, and FRIA after the 2016 Horse River wildfire. Guided by the 2017 wildfire mitigation strategy, we have successfully reduced the impact of wildfire on our communities, and that's something everyone in this region from far and wide should be extremely proud of. I want to acknowledge the sacrifices that were made by residents, local businesses, and community leaders. We've adapted, and we are learning to coexist inside nature's beauty of the northern boreal forest. It's our responsibility to not only reduce the risk, but to enhance the environment around us by incorporating parks, walking paths, and green spaces. Use the strategies that Mother Nature provides that encourage natural regeneration of new vegetation that is fire resistant in and around our communities. We plan to enhance that with a retreeing program. Like most things, it takes time, but we've seen a significant increase in the community participation in the Fire Smart principles. Just this last summer, the team conducted 619 Fire Smart home assessments delivered to homeowners in the region. COVID impacted our ability to visit homes in the previous 2 years, but from a larger perspective, the number of Fire Smart home assessments performed in our region represented 67% of all assessments done across the entire province. These assessments focused on the 10 meters surrounding the home, the identification to homeowners of material that has the potential to be ignition sources, and provide property-specific mitigation tips. In addition, and in conjunction with these home assessments, the RMWB was chosen as one of the 10 communities in Canada to participate in a wildfire mitigation incentive program. The participation and response from the community was overwhelming success. With $100,000 of funding, 51 homeowners received rebates for their purchase of fire-resistant building material as part of their home renovations. Since 2016, the Fire Smart program has implemented the planting of over 150,000 saplings and seedlings in the region. The next 5 years endeavors to create a retreeing program that can be delivered to all communities in the region. The appetite from residents to do their part when it comes to wildfire mitigation is certainly growing. We've been successful in finding natural synergies in delivering public safety services, both inside the home with the Home Fire Safety Program and outside the home with the now Fire Smart Wood Buffalo Home Partners Program. It is a point of pride for our region that the FireSmart brand is recognizable and the purpose is generally understood by our residents throughout the region. A significant project within the pillar of education, we are very excited. The FireSmart Interpretive Trail is near completion. A grant-funded project that created a public park amenity that showcases FireSmart and informs the community of its guiding principles. The Interpretive Trail is found along the edge of Birchwood Trail and Cornwell Drive in Thickwood. Showcasing fire-resistant building materials, a demonstration garden mimicking a backyard, and outdoor classrooms with a viewing deck were features identified that would complement the trails and interpretive signs. The intent was to create an opportunity for everyone to learn and enjoy the area. The FireSmart Interpretive Trail will serve as to provide an area where individuals of all ages and abilities can be outside, learn about the ecosystem of the Birchwood Trails, and become informed about the importance of FireSmart in a fun and interactive way. Now, as mentioned earlier, our region was grateful to receive grant funding allocated to FireSmart initiatives totaling $15.3 million as a result of the 2016 Horse River wildfire. A large portion of the grant funding received was allocated to vegetation management, and we have now successfully completed our commitment in spending that funding. The funding gave us an opportunity to what we call catch up on managing the fuel around our neighborhoods and communities. And traveling around the region, you can see these areas have been treated, which is a little over 400 hectares of forest. A grant-funded program of this magnitude that we've been managing for the last 5 years is no longer our reality. So we need to adapt and change. And learning from our past, we should not revert back to the pre-2016 methods of managing the #1 risk in our region, which is wildfire. Our average contracted cost per hectare was $16,000 in the last 5 years. The lowest amount was $4,000 and the highest was $40,000 per hectare. Due to the cost of mobilization and demobilization of contractors' equipment, has demonstrated the smaller the volume of work equals the higher cost per hectare. In 2022, wildfire mitigation strategy places a large focus on the maintenance of already treated areas. The jobs will be smaller, but with more locations. This reality will increase the cost per hectare significantly by using contracted services. Our recommendation is to transition from a contracted services model to what we're going to call a grassroots community-focused approach. An approach that would engage with residents on each one of our communities, would train and educate local residents, and hire those residents to help maintain the good work that we've accomplished in the last 5 years. The impact of wildfire across Alberta and Canada continues to be a major concern, resulting in the government of Alberta signaling that the current funding models are not being effective in reducing the impact of wildfires on our communities. With the single intent to help ensure that the grant funding is being spent appropriately, the future of FireSmart funding is changing, and we anticipate the necessity of 3 key elements. The first one, the municipality's commitment to a prescribed plan, and for us, this is the wildfire mitigation strategy presented to you today. The second one is the municipality's commitment to organizational support. For this is our support, for this is our FireSmart team and the work we've done in the last 5 years. Additionally, the support for Mayor and Council today in providing the letter of for grant funding application. And third, the how. How are we going to execute our plans? And for us, this is our transition to implementing the grassroots approach with residents inside each one of our communities. Part of the future funding conversation needs to include an understanding of the jurisdictional responsibilities regarding the wildfire risk throughout the Wood Buffalo region. The municipality's sole responsibility lies within the Fort McMurray Urban Service Area. With the exceptions of the First Nations in the federal Wood Buffalo National Park, the remaining responsibility lies with the province of Alberta. Through the established Regional FireSmart Advisory Committee, strong partnerships with communities, First Nations, Métis, Alberta Forestry, and the FireSmart Canada, We have the opportunity to innovate and adapt in new ways in managing this risk. Looking forward, it's important to recognize the FireSmart program needs to transition to a more sustainable delivery model. The money has been spent and all the post-wildfire grant funding agreements have expired, and yet the boreal forest continues to regenerate itself. The FireSmart team continues to source grant funding. As mentioned, we have submitted an application for funding through FRIA in a competitive process for up to a maximum of $200,000. Part of the grant funding application process requires support from Mayor and Council to show municipal commitment and its importance. For every development in all parts of the region, consideration should be given to preemptively reduce the impact of wildfire. So proactively addressing these risks through documents such as our land use bylaw and our municipal development plan, as well as development of new strategies that align with Council's strategic plan, are all essential ways to identify and reduce future risk. With new direction, the FireSmart program will continue to invest in the prevention and mitigation strategies, and we'll move forward with the belief that an ounce of prevention will save a pound of recovery. This region has firsthand experience with the cost of that recovery and understands it very well. The cost of prevention and mitigation has proven to be less than the cost of rebuild and recovery, and not to mention the unmeasurable cost of human, physical, and emotional health. And in closing, I'd like to share something very exciting with everyone. Recently announced, a monumental mark of success for our FireSmart program is in the municipality. The first ever FireSmart trademark to be awarded for a specific region has been endorsed on a national level. Next to the FireSmart Canada and FireSmart Alberta, we are the only region to achieve this. This honor and branding is a culmination of the FireSmart work that has been completed within the region. This is a signal that shows trust in our program and reflects we've become leaders of the FireSmart practices and principles for others to look upon. There's so much more to do, but by working together, we are reducing the impact of wildfire on our communities. While we enjoy living nestled in the boreal forest, we must keep in mind that this forest is a living landscape and will always regenerate. The threat of wildfire will always exist, and how we prepare for it and mitigate the risk will be our biggest accomplishment. So we must continue to make FireSmart a pillar in each one of our communities. That's the conclusion of my presentation. I'm more than happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Chief Butts. Do we have any questions from Council? Councillor Cardinal.
Thanks through the chair to Jody. Thanks for the presentation. I just wanted to say good job on the fire smarting, because I see it all over in communities. You know, in Fort Chip, and then in Anzac, and the other communities, Conklin. Good job, and it looks good. It cleans up the community, and hopefully a lot of the trees are falling, but we'll get there again. So, but good job, man. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Cardinal. Councillor Dogar.
Sir, thank you very much for giving me the chance. It's a very good presentation, revival of the old memories, and I appreciate what all the team did it 2016. I was honored to be awarded also a medal for fire, that is called Fire Medal. I was involved in the evacuation helping. So always I felt this is a great community and people helped each other. One thing I want to say that during the fire, people, once they're extricated, they are going. And certain people lose something very valuable behind. Like one of the residents, his pet was back at the house, and he wanted to go back. And he had a quarrel. He had a altercation with the police. I don't know later on what happened. I think there should be some certain standard operating procedures also
Sorry, Councilor Dogar. This is on the fire smart mitigation. It's not to do with wildfire recovery or anything, and not evacuation either. Just fire smart wildfire mitigation.
Sir, the mitigation is itself the distress or the agony which the residents face. And if some family member is left, people take pet as the family member. Then
the mitigation is to prepare before the fire.
Okay, fine. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Dogar. Councilor Stroud.
Thank you, Mayor Bowman, and through to Chief Butts. I support the required letter, and I'm impressed with the Fire Smart Interpretive Trail. It's a great asset for our region. And I also want to thank you folks for pushing through a grant application for $200,000 to the Forest Resource Improvement Association of Alberta to continue on with our Fire Smart program. I definitely support this too, Chief Butts. Thank you again for your presentation.
Thank you, Councilor Stroud. Councilor Banjoko.
Thank you, Mayor Bowman. And thank you for the presentation, and we appreciate all the good works that you are doing. My question is, I don't know if this is going to be one of the things you are considering. The last fire that happened last month is about maybe 2 minutes from my home. And I saw the sufferings and the impact of maybe what one person or a few people did. So I'm wondering, is there any strategy at having some regulations that residents must comply to in terms of the use of fires and the playing with fires that would impact the entire community? And are there best practices that we can copy? Thank you. Once again, thank you for the awesome job you are doing. And your job is not the easiest one. So thank you.
Through the chair to Councillor Banjoko, thank you for the question. Yes, you're referring to our fire that we had along Morgan Heights neighborhood. Yes. Unfortunately, and it's just as a statistical information, is that there is a large majority of wildfire starts are a result of human activity. So there's two things that we are, as I've in the presentation and part of the Fire Smart principles, is the education piece to helping us prevent those wildfires from even starting. And then there's the enforcement piece, and something that we have internalized in the recent years, and alongside with our forestry partners. I guess what I'm suggesting is we're looking at more stiffer fines or consequence in those careless acts that really, unfortunately, disrupt or the residents within our communities, and we've seen that in the Morgan Heights.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Banjoko. Councillor Ball.
Thank you. Through the chair to Chief Butts. You said something there that kind of caught my ear. Moving from contracted services to homeowner pay. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, through the chair to Councillor Ball. Well, not homeowner, but certainly, yes, we need to transition this entire Fire Smart program, because the funding that we graciously received of enormous amount is done, and the funding agreements are also expired. So, but how do we not revert back to our pre-2016 type of approach to the #1 hazard in our region? So we'll continue to seek grant funding, but I believe that we can deliver that service from now that we're all caught up, and we can provide a grassroots community approach. And that approach would involve engagement with each one of the communities, possibly through a team would train and possibly hire to do some of that mitigation work where in the past we would have done contracted work. And as I explained, the cost of that contracted work is far, far higher than we could do it internally.
So we're talking in-house.
Yes, in-house, but completely in like from one community to the another to the next, each one of those involved in their own communities. Yes.
Okay, fair enough. Thanks.
Yep.
Thank you, Councillor Ball. Are there any other questions from council? I'm not seeing any. So thank you for your presentation and thank you for keeping our communities and neighborhoods safe, and we'll definitely keep that in our minds. Do we have any other delegates for this item?
Thank you, Mayor Bowman. We have no registered delegates for this item.
Thank you. Can I have someone make the motion? Councillor Cardinal.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I move that the updated regional municipality Wood Buffalo Wildfire Mitigation Strategy 2022 to 2027 Attachment 1 be approved for use as a guiding document for FireSmart and the regional municipality of Wood Buffalo, and that the mayor be authorized on behalf of council to provide a letter of support for the Forest Resource Improvement Association of Alberta in support of the Regional Emergency Services FireSmart Wood Buffalo team application for vegetation fuel management funding.
Thank you, Councillor Cardinal. Have someone second the motion? Councillor Ball.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. Are there any other further questions from council? I'm not seeing any, so I'll call for a vote. All in favor? Councillor Benjoko. Councillor Benjoko, I think you have your camera off. Thank you. So that's all. Any opposed? Seeing none, that's carried unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to item 6.1, Councillor McGrath's motion, creation of Alberta Provincial Police Service. If there's no objections from council, we'll move that to the next meeting when Councillor McGrath is in attendance. Thank you. Now I'd like to invite Councillor Weigel to speak to this motion. Following that, we'll hear from delegates and then questions of council followed by debate. Councillor Weigel, if you could go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. I put forward the motion for administration to look into the rural water and sewer rates due to the fact that since putting the connectability into Sapper Creek, there's been a wide range of increases in the sewer amounts, and residents found that it was quite concerning on the direction that it was going. And so I wanted just to bring it back to administration to look at the rates in all the rural areas, so we can make sure that it's fair, and then create a path forward to make sure the direction that we're going with rural water and sewer.
Thank you, Councillor Weigel. Are there any questions from council? Councillor Cardinal.
Through the chair to Stu, I really think it's a good idea, especially when there's a lot of discussions on rates involving rural communities. So good motion, and you have my support on that. Thank you.
Councillor Grandison.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through the chair, I also agree. I think, but it might also surprise you to find out that there are certain areas of the rural that are getting charged less than the urban area. So it'll be a well-received method to ensure that there's an equitable charge throughout our region. So I also support it in that regard. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Grandison. Any other questions from council? After we finish that, we'll move into debate. Is there any questions from council for Councillor Weigel? I'm not seeing any. Do we have any delegates for this item?
Thank you, Mayor Bowman. We have one registered delegate.
Thank you. Sherry Gaunt from Draper. Sherry, if you want to come up, and just remind you have 5 minutes to speak, and just remain seated afterwards if you have any questions. Thank you.
Well, good afternoon, Mayor and Council and Administration. I'm here from the community of Draper, and I'd like to address this motion that we have put forward by Councillor Weigel to ask administration to conduct an analysis of water and sewer and building in the rural areas to ensure fairness and consistency in all rural areas. When I read this morning, I guess I was pretty upset because I don't feel, and I think a lot of people in Draper that I've talked to about this in the last few days feel the same way as I do, that there is nothing fair or consistent about the water delivery in Draper. Yes, we do pay a substantial amount less, well, not substantial, about 50% compared to some of the other homes in Fort McMurray, but we also are on a regimented schedule with limited water. We have to consider when to wash your car, when to water the grass, when to wash my house, whether the water truck came or not, whether I have enough water to make it through till Monday. Sometimes the water truck doesn't come on Monday. I've had to call the pulse line to get water. It is the most inconvenient thing. I don't think that we should be paying the same as the rest of the city or the other communities that are having water piped in when it's a total inconvenience to have water trucks coming onto my property, unknown times, any time of the day, arriving, disrupting everything. There are different people coming to the property when this occurs. It's very inconvenient. It's very inconvenient. The other thing is the sewer delivery or the sewer removal is also very inconsistent. I have to call many times. They don't have a set schedule. It's usually to the point where I need to call because there's a stench in my house or a stench on the property, and then I call. They have to come to the garage or to the house. Somebody has to be home. They can't just come into the properties. We have dogs, we have kids. It's most inconvenient. I do believe we're the only community in Fort McMurray that does not have their water piped in, does not have sewer removal like the rest of the communities. And I think it would be very unfair and inconsistent to put any of the Draper billings into an analysis for further analysis. So I'm encouraging anybody that wants to ask me questions about how we receive our water or how our sewer is removed, because I don't think that everybody understands how that occurs. It's not the same as what people probably believe it is. So that's what I want to talk about.
Thank you, Sherry. Thank you very much for coming in today. If you have any questions for the delegate, Councillor Weigel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I appreciate you coming forward and talking to this. I just want to speak to the spirit of the motion. The spirit of the motion was not to necessarily get everybody onto a regulated system for the fees, but as even in Draper, we have talked forward about getting rural water and sewer put in there. As rural water and sewer goes in Sapri, we saw it first is the fact that the rates were skyrocketed in comparison to what they believed they would be due to the sewer rates. I'm not trying to change how Draper gets charged for water or where they're at right now. I personally, and this just speaks to what you said, I do agree that Draper's functionality of their systems right now is not comparable to any other place in the whole regional municipality of Wood Buffalo, and we've been trying to get that moved forward. But this just speaks to the rates, so they can, a day when the day comes that we're in that area, that we've got fair and equitable fees at that point, but not to start charging it now. That is not the spirit of the motion.
Thank you for speaking to that, Councillor Weigel. Just remind Council right now we're just in question portion of the meeting. Councillor Stroud.
Thank you, Mayor Bowman, and through the chair to the presenter. There are a number of other rural hamlets that have hauled in water and hauled out sewer. I represent 4 hamlets that are in that situation. The other question, I've always had in my mind is that we in the rural hamlets are charged a hauling fee for the water, plus the water charge. And in the urban area, because it's distinguished in the bylaw for the user fees, rate, and charges, it distinguishes between rural and urban. And I believe in the urban, they're only charged for the water itself. So there are some discrepancies between the rural and the urban, and I think Councillor Weigel's motion is really a positive move forward so that we can look into these discrepancies. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stroud. And again, just remind Council, this portion is for questions right now, not for debate. Councillor Grandison. Councillor Grandison, you're on mute. We can all see you talking, but no one can hear you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Very unusual. Nobody can hear me. Thank you for coming in. I do have one question, just because I have a bit of a history, and Draper, unlike all of the rest of the communities in our region, was never intended to have water, sewer, garbage removal, or anything else. So when you purchased there, were you somehow informed or of the belief that that should have happened? Because the development of Draper historically never included any of those things. And I'm not familiar at any point in time when council made a decision to all of a sudden change that in Draper. So I'm a little bit confused, because having sold properties in Draper and been familiar with that community for some time, it was never, ever intended to have water, sewer, garbage, or anything else. It was private home ownership with a total dependence on self-reliance through its inception. So I don't know when that changed. So my question to you is, were you under the perception that that was different when you purchased there?
Through the chair, Councillor Grandison, no, I'm not under the assumption, never was when we bought the property, that any of that would be developed. However, in reading this put forward motion about fairness and consistency in the rural areas, I just wanted to make sure that Draper is not included in that for the reasons that I stated. I wasn't aware that there was other areas that are having it hauled in, and I can reflect on that now. But no, I was never under the assumption that any of that would be brought in. The other reason that I don't think that we should be charged the same as the rest of the city. So no, I never assumed that we'd be getting those services.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Grandison. Thank you, Sherry. Do we have any other questions for the presenter? I'm not seeing any, so thank you, Sherry. Thank you very much. Do you have any other delegates for this item?
Thank you, Mayor Bowman. We have no other registered delegates for this item.
Thank you. Councillor Weigel, could you please put your motion on the floor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And before I put forward, I had been in discussion with administration just about the timeline. And due to the fact that water consumption is very low during the months, the winter months, it's been in conversation that it might take a little bit more time than what I had asked for in the months being to come back with these rates. And so for them to do a full analysis, it has come to my attention that they would be able to do it by the end of the first quarter 2023, which I'm okay with. But just like I said, for just for the sheer fact that water consumption through the winter months isn't an issue. And so if any of my colleagues has a problem with this amendment, I just wanted to put it up there.
Thank you, Councillor Weigel. So if you want to read the motion amended.
Absolutely. I move that whereas the municipality's rural water and sewer servicing program is open for residents in some rural communities to connect, and some residents have now connected to the municipality's pipe water and sewer services, and whereas some residents have seen an increase in their water and wastewater utility bills since the time of connection, and whereas the water and wastewater utility billing rates should be reviewed for all rural areas to ensure fairness and consistency, therefore be it resolved that administration conduct an analysis of water and wastewater utility billings in the rural areas and bring forward this information before the end of Q1 2023.
Thank you, Councillor Weigel. Can I have someone second the motion? Councillor Cardinal?
I got a quick question. Is that with the amendment that Stu just said? Is that in the amendment? The comments that you just made before the motion?
It's an update. I can let Councillor Weigel, but it just changes it from the charge for 2023 to the end of Q1 2023 to take in the summer months.
So that's the amended motion that you're making?
Yes, it is.
Okay, I second that. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Cardinal. Are there any other questions? And debate points? Councillor Cardinal?
Oh, no.
No. Councillor Benjoko?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Weigel. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And I just want to commend Councillor Weigel for bringing this motion forward. I support it, and I believe this should be done for all of the rural areas, Anzac, Fort Mackay, and every area that is affected by the current system. And I also hope that we can ease some of the challenges that the rural areas are facing gradually. Hearing the delegates speak is tough to hear what they have to go through just to coexist with us. I believe as taxpayers, we owe them the support. So thank you. I do support the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Benjoko. Councillor Grandison?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through the chair. Hey, mine is more, I'm not quite sure how to debate this. I think it's quite telling once administration does their review. We'll have a very clear picture. So not so much debating it, but applauding the fact that we'll have something documented in paper. And just to clarify a comment that was made earlier, in the urban environment, you pay for distribution and consumption all at the same time, always has been since the beginning of time. Back in the day in rural, they paid for consumption, not distribution. Now with the water and sewer, it's consumption and distribution, because that's what happens when you have piped water and sewer, is it's consumption and distribution. So there is going to be a difference. So it's going to be nice that it's all put together on one piece of paper. So that's my comments. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Grandison. Councillor Dogar?
Sir, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity. I take keen interest in the community affairs of the rural area. Last year, I went to Draper area and interviewed many residents and tried to know their problems. Even last week, there was a community engagement here in the Jubilee Center, and many residents were there. I discussed, tried to know their affairs. Later, councillor also joined that. My question is that are we spending the money on the rural area in proportion with the strength or the population as compared to the cities, or do we keep some consideration or not? This is my question to the administration.
Through the chair to Councillor Dogar, I think you're referring to the investment of bringing services to rural areas as a per capita calculation. my awareness is that hasn't been part of the metrics that have been used by council to direct those programs to this point.
Okay.
Thank you, Councilor Dogar. Do you have any other questions from council? Councilor Grandison?
No, just took it down, sir.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Weigel?
Thank you, Mayor. And just to speak to those points, I do want to thank Sherry for coming and speaking today. I think it's important. My advisement, bringing this forward is just for administration to bring back what they find, so we can be educated on what's out there and what benchmarking is and what we feel is fair and equitable. I think between now and then, and even at that time, I think it's very important that all of the council, mayor and council, do engage with a lot of the residents in those areas, in the rural areas, and get a fair understanding of what it's like to be in each one of those, what they're going through, what's going on. And so when we go to make a decision, it's not something that's just on paper, but we do understand what's going on in each rural area. So I just want to thank again the administration and my colleagues for supporting this.
Thank you, Councilor Weigel. Do you have any questions or comments or debate points from council? I'm not seeing any, so I think this is a very important motion, actually. As we look at speaking to Councilor Weigel on the issue, it's important that administration come back with what the costs are going to be, especially coming down to the residents as we move towards rural and sewer in our community. What the actual cost of this service will be to the residents in the end is going to be a major factor when we see these numbers come back. So if you have no other questions, we'll call for a vote. All in favor? Any opposed? Not seeing any. That's carried unanimously. Thank you, Councilor Weigel, for bringing that forward, and thank you, Sherry, for your presentation. Moving on to item 6.3, I invite Councilor Ball to speak to his motion. Following that, we will hear from delegates and then questions from council, followed by debate. Councilor Ball.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through the chair. If this motion was brought forward, I think everybody recalls the discussion we had a couple council meetings ago relative to capital budget amendments and how we were increasing budgets, and as they were brought to us, it was more for information relative to approval. I went back and looked at what our capital budget has been increased over the past, well, since May 24th, it was $21,120,000 as information. And I kind of just thought, I think we need to tweak this policy a little bit to bring that responsibility back to council as opposed to administration.
Thank you, Councilor Ball. Do we have any questions from council? I'm not seeing any. Do you have any delegates for this item?
Thank you, Mayor Bowman. We have no registered delegates for this item.
Okay. Councilor Ball, do you want to put that motion on the floor?
I move that administration review and bring forward recommendations to amend the fiscal responsibility policy, FIN 160, to ensure that appropriate capital budget amendments are brought forward for council approval.
Can I have someone second that motion? Councilor Benjoko?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I second that motion.
Thank you. Are there any further questions or debate points by council?
Councilor
Benjoko?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I strongly support this motion. It's not a comfortable position when administration goes back and come back with changes to the projected spend. And all we have to do is endorse as a form of information. So that is quite uncomfortable. The last meeting we had, we saw increases up to 50% more than that. And yet we couldn't make any changes to whatever they brought forward. That is not aligned with the business practices within supply chain management that I'm used to for years. So I would suggest that there's a limit to changes that we can absorb. In supply chain, the contingency plan of sometimes 10% in projects or contracts, sometimes 20%, depending on the nature. So it is not fiscal responsibility on our own part as people who have been put in charge to look after taxpayers' money that we would absorb 40%, 60% and just keep moving. So I strongly support that we go and look at this and set criteria and set percentages and put limitation to the flexibility or the free right, so to say, of the administration. Once we approve the initial budget, we seem not to be able to do anything with whatever dollar amount we pay in the end for projects. That is something that I do not agree with. So thank you again, Councillor Ball, and I hope that my colleagues would also see this as something that we need to change, or we need to go and look into it and see how we can practice this better. And this might include benchmarking with other municipalities, but then generally speaking, this is not a very acceptable way to do business. Thank you again, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Banjoko. Councillor Stroud?
Thank you, Mayor Bowman, and through to Councillor Ball. I support your motion, Councillor Ball, in allowing administration to bring forward their recommendations to council in regards to the fiscal responsible policy FIN 160. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stroud. Councillor Walkwin?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Ball, for bringing that forward. Yes, when the last meeting, no, I think it was a couple of meetings ago, sorry, that, yeah, all we had to do was endorse or, pass on what was brought forward for information. I really didn't feel comfortable on that part. So with the projects that are currently in place, I think what we need to do is really look at any increases at all, because the projects that are in place now, we need to even look at that as well, because we don't even know how far they are or what's in under current construction. So maybe that's another thing that we would need to look at as well. But thank you, Councillor Ball, for bringing that forward. I strongly endorse that as well.
Thank you, Councillor Walkwin. Councillor Cardinal?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Thanks for bringing the motion forward, Ken. I myself, I have a good sense of what the administration does when it comes to finding out benchmarking and just providing the best information that they can to us as councillors. I know that like I said before, it's a learning experience when we help each other out, and I'm pretty comfortable with sticking with administration providing and doing the budget process and making that decision myself. So I am not for the motion, but I thank you for bringing it forward, and I really want to just let it be with the administration myself and let them continue to do the work that they're doing. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Cardinal. Councillor Walkwin?
Sorry, I forgot to take my hand down.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any other questions from council? Councillor Duggar?
Sir, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity. I'm fully support Councillor Ball in this motion. He is the highly experienced councillor that I've seen. What all he speaks, he puts forward, that is all sense. I was just discussing with him few things before the commencement of this meeting, and what all recommendations he put for the capital budget. I am my full support. We should try to ascertain, we should try to know, we should try to follow all the things which are being happening. So there's no doubt administration is doing great, but we are also here for do something. Not that blindly we do what all is put up. You see, they are of course professionals and they do a lot, but we once try to do the things, try to follow the things, we learn more and become more efficient. The residents has given us responsibility to give directions, not only to follow. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Councilor Dogar. Any other questions or debate points from council? I'm not seeing any. So again, thank Councillor Ball for bringing this forward. If you could just define one thing, Councillor Ball, just when you say that ensure that appropriate capital budget amendments, what would be meant by appropriate? Guess I've turned your mic on as well.
Thank you for the question, Mr. Mayor. Actually, this is the word we stumbled over when we were writing this, because if we wrote the word all, it would really handcuff administration. So by writing the word appropriate, it gave them the ability to create a policy that, let's just say, didn't handcuff them to bring everything to us for approval if the budget was increased. Create a threshold. The idea here isn't to create more work. It's basically to create more ownership on council relative to what the budget is. We've had $21 million worth of increases that we've had no say in this year. We had no say. We were told directly by our former CAO. Well, I'm not asking you, I'm telling you. That's what we were told. This at least gives them the ability to create, say, a 10% threshold, but that might not be the right number if it's a $100 million project, because that's $10 million. So I'd like to see options from administration that could get away of the larger items coming to council for approval, but if it's a $5,000 amendment on a $100 million project, probably don't care about it. Fair enough?
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Ball. Do you have any questions or debate points from council? Councillor Banjoko?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So just to, Councillor Ball already mentioned what I said earlier on. It could be in terms of percentage, threshold, or dollar value. So that would be part of what they will come back with, in my opinion. So there's always either dollar value in terms of when it's 500,000, for instance, you need to come back, or when it's a percentage that is so huge compared with what was initially approved. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Banjoko. Any other questions, council? Councillor Cardinal?
I just wanted to mention again that, we always ask for, budgeting, administration for support, and, whatever it is that we need from administration. And then I can't see this being any different. I understand that we want to say in every single thing, every dollar that's being spent because of the taxpayers. But we got to also give administration some credit as well. I know that, I'm okay with that. So I just wanted to say that, we ask administration for everything. They're pretty much, on point with a lot of things, and I understand that we want to have say in all money, but I like I said, I'm not for it. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Cardinal. Do we have any other questions or debate points, council? I'm not seeing any, so I will call for a vote. All in favor? And any opposed? That's carried with one opposed. Now I'd like to invite Councillor Cardinal to speak to his motion. Following that, we'll hear from any delegates and then questions followed by debate points. Councillor Cardinal, you can go ahead.
The reason why I brought the motion forward for compensation for the councillors for the next councillors and mayor and council, which would start in 2025, just to clarify. I wanted to also mention, when somebody's at work, they're doing good, and everybody gets increments or whatever it may be, 3%, whatever percentage that they do when they go to work, and you're hired every 3-6 months, you get a raise. The reason why I brought this motion forward is, inflation in our community, that we live in. Food was expensive, starting going up, as we all know it. Gas is going up, as you all know it. Travel, rent, all those kinds of stuff that comes with inflation. Not only that, I believe that raising the compensation for mayor and council as well, it would also provide value to commit more time to your position, and make this a full-time position. At this time, I've had some discussions, and there's some resistance. So also, people wanting to, for the people that are going to be wanting to become councillors or mayors in the next election, which is 2025, I want to say that, at this time there's resistance from the community due to low income benefits. This salary wouldn't take care of living comfortably in Fort McMurray at $48,000 a year for councillors, and then $160 for the mayor. I strongly believe that we need to. I look for the support of councillors as well as community to, help us help the next mayor and council live a good life and live it good financially. That's what I'd like to say. So, thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Cardinal. Do we have any questions from council for Councillor Cardinal? And just a reminder, it's questions right now. Councillor Weigel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through the chair to Councillor Cardinal. Thank you for your motion. I just want to clarify that the motion put forward right now is just for administration to just to do a review right now, and it is not looking at advancing and making any decisions right now, but just for the review.
Yes, I believe so, and then just to, give us some dialogue with benchmarking with other municipalities as well, because I think it'd be a really good thing. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Weigel. Councillor Dogar.
Sir, thank you very much. I'm very much astonished that the councillor is very much worried about the next council. Why he is not worried about the present council? Most of the week I see him here around the Fort McMurray. So he should be granted special allowance. That is what my recommendation is. There should be a straightaway, salary hike for him. I agree. Now, coming to serious thing, there should be increase. We are part-timer though, but it's very difficult. I'm getting only $2,800 per month, and that is the only income I have. I left my business in Edmonton. So here, this is such an honorable job for me, and for this honor, I am doing it. But it's very difficult. Sometimes I have to skip the dishes, and sometimes the taxi. But, we seriously think to raise something. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Dogar. Councillor Ball?
Thank you, through the chair, to actually Councillor Weigel. Can you ask that question again? I just want clarity on the answer.
Yeah, the question was that the motion is to ask administration to come back with a recommendation and do a review of our compensation, but not to put forward. Right now, we are not putting forward an actual recommendation to increase salary.
Okay, so to that, the thing says, and bring forward proposed changes to the policy as well as remuneration recommendations for. So that's what they're bringing forward, as proposed change. My assumption is they're being asked to bring forward proposed changes.
Yes, sorry. I guess what I was trying to clarify publicly is that we are not at this point looking to change any salaries, that it is just for administration to do a review and come back with recommendations, that at no point in this process as we sit right now are we changing any salary.
My assumption is in Q3 of 2023, we'll be voting on that.
Yeah, Ken's right. Ken is right. We at the last I don't know if it was the council meeting before, it was up to administration to be able to bring that stuff forward for the benchmarking today. So if that's not done, then it's not done. I believe.
I'm just saying that we're asking, based on this motion, asking administration to bring forward recommendations.
Councillor Cardin, do you want to read your motion again so it's some clarity to it?
I move that administration be directed to undertake a third-party review of the elected officials' compensation, travel, and expense policy, LEG 50, and bring forward proposed changes to the policy as well as remuneration recommendations for 2025 in Q3 of 2023.
Thank you, Councillor Cardinal. Councillor Walkman, you have a question?
There we go. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I had the same question as Ken. So to bring forward in 2023 for the 2024 current council, is that what you're bringing forward there? I'm totally lost on this.
Thanks. Through the chair to Councillor Walkwan. Actually, the request is to have, the remuneration compensation of the salaries to be adjusted in 2025 for the next council that comes on. So the next council would be the ones that would be getting the remuneration and the compensation. So we're just, debating it, and I believe that we are looking for some answers from administration for the remuneration and recommendations for the actual change in the motion, or change in, something like that.
Okay, I get you now. Okay, so it's for the next council and mayor, and also the remuneration. Okay, all right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Councillor Walkman. Councillor Benjoko, question?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to also reiterate the fact that this is just for administration to look into what is the fair value for our time and commitment, and then also what is compatible to all similar municipalities around us, and then come back with that. I know it's a very uncomfortable debate, but well, we still have to go ahead and bring it up and then see what happens. Could be adjustment upward, or it could be adjustment downwards, but whatever is fair, then we would be happy to see what it is. Thank you.
Just to remind council, right now we're in the question portion. Councillor Grandison?
Oh,
okay. Just in terms of the question, it may be more specific. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for administration. But historically, and if memory serves me correct, any review is done by a third party. It's not necessarily done by administration. It's not done by council. It's a third independent party that looks at it, so that there's no opportunity for bias or anything else to be imposed in that process. Is that still the current methodology that would be used in reviewing this?
Through the chair to Councillor Grandison, yes, the request is in alignment with the typical approach that's taken both in this municipality and others, where a third-party review brings recommendations for council to consider for the next council. Typically, that's discussed closer to the end of term. This is just coming a little bit earlier. It prepares us to undertake that work.
Okay, and it's the third party that I was specifically looking at, because, you know, there could always be a perception that council can influence administration and so on and so forth, and that a third party independent review is undertaken, so whatever comes back is done without prejudice or, you know, biased or anything else. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Councillor Grandison. Do you have any other questions from council? I'm not seeing any. Councillor Cardinal, can you put your motion on the floor again, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that administration be directed to undertake a third-party review of the elected officials' compensation, travel, and expense policy, LEG 050, and bring forward proposed changes to the policy as well as remuneration recommendations for 2025 council in Q3 of 2023.
Thank you, Councillor Cardinal. Do we have a seconder for that? Councillor Weigel?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or debate items on this? Councillor Cardinal?
I just want to say that you know, just you know, if this motion is carried, I believe that, you know, it provides some incentive for remaining council to work harder and make sure that you know, more time is put into our community, and that's all I got to say. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Cardinal. I have a question for administration. Is this already done at before every term starts? This third-party process already?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through yourself, my understanding is that it's a recurring recycling process at the RMWB, as it is in other municipalities to do this on a term-by-term basis.
Okay, thank you. So it is what's being put on the floor is already being done anyway.
But it would have already been done.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Cardinal?
So the review is already being done every year? Is that what I'm understanding?
Every term.
Every term. Oh, every term. Okay, thanks.
Do we have any other questions from council? I'll call for a vote. All in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. 2 opposed. Thank you, Councillor Cardinal. Thank you, everyone. This concludes our public portion of tonight's meeting. Thank you all who participated. We'll take a brief 10-minute recess before resuming into in-camera. Thank you.